This is Let's Talk Big, the big read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel. The Owens Community College Campus Big Read is taking place now and throughout the semester, with the goal of bringing awareness of different perspectives through books. The Campus Read book is A Little Less Broken, How an Autism Diagnosis Finally Made Me Whole by Marion Shambari. It's the story of one woman's decades-long journey to a diagnosis of autism and the barriers that keep too many neurodivergent people from knowing their true selves. Now, sharing passages, topics, and events related to the book are Director of Library Services, Jane Berger, and Professor of English, Jen Hazel.
Welcome to Let's Talk Big. My name is Jen Hazel, and I have with me my partner in crime, Jane Berger, and the Assistant Dean of Math and Science, Grant Scholton. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. We finally nailed the science.
I know.
We've been trying for years.
Exactly. So you just have the right,
That's right.
And so Jane has a passage procured
This is
just
what I do.
specifically
That's
for
right.
you.
Exactly. Try not to laugh when I read it. So we're toward the end of the book again. When Dr. Marsh asked me about my body awareness, a strong memory surfaced from my elementary and middle school years. I had frequent pee accidents in public places, once in the 3rd grade during reading circle. Another time, a few months before my friends dumped me in the closet, I'd peed all over the hardwood floor of Katie K's foyer. I remember the two of us sopping it up with bath towels while the heat of my shame spread faster than we could wipe away. Another time, I was trick-or-treating with Chelsea when I realized that if I didn't pee right now, I was going to do it all over the sidewalk. At the next house, I begged the owner to use her bathroom. I didn't make it. I peed all over this strange woman's tile, stuffed my soaked tights into her garbage can, and fled, leaving a standing puddle on the floor. I was 13. How had I forgotten this? How had I never considered the incision that always existed between my body and my brain?
Wow. Yeah.
So bodily, how does this happen? No.
Well, that's what I was thinking. So there's kind of a couple things going on there. She speaks about the heat of the shame, which is kind of like it's almost imprinted in her mind that way. But the other thing I kind of noticed about that passage is she wasn't aware of it until her doctor brought it up. So a lot of that was subconscious. And I think when you have memories like that are imprinted, there's two really kind of physiological things that are happening there. You have insula, which is mainly response, or that's mainly going to be like your self-awareness. So insula it's a part of a brain that I guess it's for your self-awareness. But then the other part that we're probably more familiar with is the amygdala, and that's like your fight or your flight response. So I think one of the things going on in this passage is, she was dissociated from it in a way, and until the doctor asked about it, then it brought it back to the surface. But what you have going on there is those two things kind of acting together, and your emotional response is not connected to your physiological processes, and they call that interoception. So interoception is when your body does not match what's going on psychologically. And that's one of the things that is not common, but it can be associated with autism. It can be associated with other conditions that are neurodivergent.
See, we knew we'd be able to find a connection.
Yeah, and it's not as, I wouldn't say it's uncommon either. The more research that comes out, we're finding that autism is 1 out of 30, 1 out of 35.
Right.
So about 3% of students, which means in a traditional Owens class, we probably have one statistically autistic student in that class, and that's just looking at one condition.
Right.
If you embroider that with ADD and ADHD, it becomes a larger picture.
Yep. Yep, for sure.
I think I would be interested in knowing, and this is not for you to answer right now because you probably don't have the stats to pull out, but I'd be interested in what that classroom would look like if we included like all those who were neurodivergent, what that might exist, because thinking about it, so like when we teach comp classes, we only have 20 in the classroom. What would that look like there, and what are the sizes of some of your classes, Grant?
They're usually 24 to 35, depending on if it's in a lab setting, we keep it lower, so there's more one-on-one time and equipment stuff like that. But generally, it's 24 to 32.
And would it matter what class it was? So would maybe an art class or something more on the creative side, for all of these kids who were told growing up, you're just, again, doing your own thing, being your own person, you're unique. That would flow right into someone who has more of an artistic nature. Now, would it pan out statistically that maybe more in that class or that with that interest would be neurodivergent?
And I think that was when I was reading the passage and kind of thinking about this, that was my big kind of question and discussion I had with my faculty later was, I think we're all aware of it and we're all open and accepting and recognize the importance of neurodivergence in science and mathematics. But I think how we handle it as instructors in the classroom is where some of that starts to fall apart. We might we might be aware of things, but what do you do for those particular students without kind of alienating them? And I think, that we have things in place like the IEPs and, but I'm not sure that those mechanisms are always utilized. Like, I, for example, was a student who had ADD, have ADD, and I did not get an IEP. I kind of had to learn to work through it, and I tripped through it without recognizing some of the signs and setbacks that I had, during my master's degree.
Well, and coming to college, it's a whole new road to travel for students because up until that point, it had been done for them. It was, something that parents could initiate, follow up on. They were really more passive participants in it. I don't even know. I was never in an IEP meeting for my daughter. But that was in high school, so I don't know what it's like in the lower grades. But anyway, when they get to college then, they have to initiate that on their own, and sometimes it's difficult. They don't know where to start, and just the feeling of a whole new experience and environment can be challenging for them, let alone, managing all of those details that would be helpful for them, but maybe kind of hard to seek out.
So really what it makes me think of is more to really talking about how we can promote in the classrooms and support instructors on universal design.
Yeah.
Because if you putting your classroom together that way, you are going to assist many students.
Yes.
Like in general,
Not
not
just some.
just
Yeah.
some.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So identify kind of the methods that might be more appropriate, and then it's also being served from a different angle for the other students too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
win-win all the way around.
exactly, because thinking about it, and I always think of is it curb cuts? The cut in
Yeah,
the curb?
yeah, yeah,
I'm thinking
yeah.
about that. How many benefits does that have for so many people?
But the purpose was for, those with disabilities who couldn't, in a wheelchair, make it easier for them. But moms with strollers, older folks who have the little carts that they pull with their groceries, kids who ride bikes. I mean,
Skateboarders.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah, I
thinking
find
about
it much
that.
easier when I'm on my skateboard to find the curb cuts and not, hop the curb.
Yeah. Yes, because you're doing all this skateboarding, I'm
That's
sure.
right, exactly.
So Grant, what was you said you talked with your faculty about some of it. So tell us what were some of the thoughts or solutions or things that you might be examining from the discussion?
I think they were more interested in it from kind of the angle of, when I see this in my classroom, what should I do? Am I allowed to approach the topic, or should I pull the student aside? Kind of the mitigating techniques that would be involved. And I think that our faculty are probably well-versed in some of this, but I think what we're trying to do is pass that on to our adjunct in some ways. And in things like this where we're raising awareness and discussing it openly, I don't think we're in a day and age where anything should be embarrassing anymore.
I would agree with you
The
there.
science field has always been very open and accepting, and even when you look at the scientific method, one of the big things that some of these neurodivergent conditions can demonstrate themselves as is you'll see it, they typically are really deep thinkers in some cases, and in the science field what we value and what we really appreciate is the kind of the critical thinking skills. So
Yep.
I think they have ways at approaching the scientific process every step of it, whether, the question, the hypothesis, testing, reporting, all of that is viewed through a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, as, people in the industry, we should be trying to get those voices heard more often than we do, because sometimes those are the important
Well, we
changes.
would love to have you back to talk more about that. And also, we are looking at having a workshop on universal design in classrooms. But that'll do it for us today. That has probably overdone it for us today. On behalf of myself, Jane Berger, and Grant, keep talking big.
This has been Let's Talk Big. Catch Let's Talk Big anytime on the RSS feed or the Owens Outcome Plus YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. Join us again for Let's Talk Big, the big read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel.